One of my viewers, Halil Zelenka, posted the following comment. A video on agnotology is well suited to this socio-cultural juncture. What does the tobacco industry and the pro-pitbull lobby have in common? The word agnotology was coined by Robert N. Proctor in 1995. Put simply, agnotology is the study of human ignorance. The process of agnotology is the willful spread of ignorance through publication of false, inaccurate, and misleading information. Those of you who have watched my video on logical fallacies will be familiar with the use of this strategy by the dog lobby. There are numerous examples in my other videos about how the dog lobby corrupts and manipulates information. I have spoken in many videos about fake science, mythology, ignorance, and deceit practiced in the pursuit of protecting dogs. I have made a point of presenting scientifically sourced and validated material to contrast with what the dog lobby presents. While I have never previously identified the concept of agnotology by name, I have presented and contradicted the anti-scientific and anti-intellectual stance of the dog lobby. I have shown that a photo of a pit bull with a shower cap or a floral tiara is not an appropriate argument against statistically based evidence about the danger that these dogs pose to society. I have debunked the deliberate confusing of correlation and causation when dog lovers report on studies. My videos have shown many examples of the stupidity of dog worship beliefs and their rejection of facts for faith and fakery. I have endeavored, whenever possible, to contrast true knowledge with the presentation of anti-reason offered by dog owners for reasons of self-interest. Because I have discussed agnotology in principle and substance in so many videos, I have decided to talk about the dog industry and the tobacco industry in broader strokes rather than using the discrete framework of one particular theory. I have decided to look at what the dog lobby and the tobacco industry have in common for 3 reasons. One is that a number of viewers have made comments in the past about how smoking in public places used to be socially acceptable, but is no longer. The reputation of tobacco has been in decline for some time, and is now generally viewed in a negative light by the majority of the populations in developed countries. The techniques that the tobacco industry has used to slow or even halt that decline are similar to those used in the dog industry to stifle criticism. I will try to concentrate on pit bulls, but intend also to make general points about dogs and the dog lobby. I do not want to divert into conspiracies or other evidence-free or evidence-manipulating belief systems. The title of my channel is Defenders of Humans and the Natural World. I want to try and keep to that remit as I understand it. That means discussing scientifically verifiable and testable information and questioning information that is deceitful or is not based in science. What better place to start than a recent video? In my video entitled Man's Worst Fiend, referencing the institution of slavery, I quoted Perry and Yingling in saying, quote, "Perhaps the most terrifying and effective tool for disciplining black bodies and dominating their space was the dog," end quote. Tobacco growing in the pre-industrial era was labor-intensive and physically demanding. The institution of slavery allowed tobacco growers to minimize costs in order to maximize profits. Tobacco depended on slavery, and slavery depended on dogs. The association with slavery makes the historical origins of tobacco growing shameful and distasteful. Such history is unacceptable to modern sensibilities, but it has to be addressed somehow. When societies have to address shameful and distressing historical reality, they have a number of options open to them. One common approach is to reinterpret the historical record so that it fits with your view of reality. The rewriting of the origins of the tobacco industry involves the creation of the Cavalier Myth, an overlay of chivalry, nobility, and honor, atop the base layer of the foul subjugation of human beings with a different skin color. The creation of the Cavalier Myth stems from the belief that many of the immigrants to Virginia from England in the 17th century were escaping supporters of King Charles, defeated in the Civil War. Supporters of Parliament were referred to as Puritans or Roundheads, and supporters of the king were called Cavaliers. Currently, the word Cavalier has a negative value and is usually used to refer to behavior that is offhand or unconcerned. In Virginia of the 17th century, the term Cavalier was perceived in positive terms as possessing of loyalty, chivalry, and bravery. None of this was true. Most 17th century immigrants from England to Virginia were indentured servants, artisans, and craftsmen, not romantic, flamboyant Cavalier refugees. From the Cavalier myth developed the idea of the gentleman planter. The idealized Virginia gentleman would behave with courtesy and honor to all. He would be well educated and have impeccable manners, maintained within a framework of unquestionable morality. The concept of the Southern gentleman was born and spread from Virginia across the South, transmitted and solidified in popular novels of the time. According to Richie Watson, quote, "These novels present the South and its enslavement of African Americans in terms that idealized the slaveholders. This continued in the decades following the American Civil War, when the Virginia gentleman was enlisted into the lost cause and the justification of slavery. While 20th century writers treated it with more irony, the Virginia gentleman still thrives in American popular culture." End quote. The theme of the Southern gentleman, the man of manners, continues to this day in popular culture. It is so ingrained in our consciousness that when we see a photo or a film of a Southern antebellum mansion or plantation house, we associate it with a certain delicate style of decorum and genteel etiquette, rather than the brutality and horror of enslavement. The pit bull equivalent of the slave-owning gentleman is the nanny dog. The myth of the nanny dog is a crude attempt to disguise the horrific origins of the breed with a veneer of compassion and responsibility. The pit bull terrier was devised to meet ruthless savagery upon other animals. Its origins are mired in gore, horror, and unrelenting cruelty. Since these origins speak badly of the breed, they need to divert from an accurate history somehow. The nanny dog is the equivalent of the Southern beau, a false history camouflaging ugliness. AdoptAPet.com, North America's largest nonprofit pet adoption website, tells us this about the pit bull. Quote, "Astoundingly, for most of our history, America's nickname for pit bulls was the nanny dog. For generations, if you had children and wanted to keep them safe, you wanted a pit bull, the dog that was the most reliable of any breed with children or adults." End quote. It is indeed astounding because it is not true. Unfortunately, it is widely accepted as true. Type in Nanny Dog into any search engine and you will be overwhelmed by results pointing to articles written by people desperate to persuade you that this invention has a historical basis. So eager are they to persuade you of this false history that they also create a parallel fiction which declares the true history of the pit bull terrier to be the false one. When bull baiting became illegal in the United Kingdom, supporters of the activity had to look elsewhere for their thrills and gambling opportunities. The traditional bulldog was not sufficiently game for the new pursuit of dog fighting, so it was crossed with the white English terrier to produce the Staffordshire Bull Terrier. The pit bull came about by experimenting with and developing other cross-breeding opportunities. Here is what the New York Times said of this new dog breed in 1908. Quote, "The progeny was named the Bull Terrier, the greatest fighting machine, pound for pound, on 4 legs. The Bull Terrier had the courage of the bulldog and the jaws and quickness of the white terrier. Moreover, he has the terrier's way of fighting. He does not simply take hold and stay there. He takes a hold and begins to eat his way through and tear and worry. If his first hold doesn't suit, he takes another. If he gets his adversary by the throat, he will tear out the throat in a minute or so and end the battle." End quote. In this 1908 article, there is no mention of the dog's remarkable ability to care for very young children. If this dog breed can switch from being a ferocious fighter to a caring child supervisor, its transformative powers exceed those of Optimus Prime. In the play Peter Pan, written in 1904, there is a dog called Nana, which is specifically employed to look after the children. J.M. Barrie, the author, specified the breed of the dog as a Newfoundland. In the Disney film, the dog was a Saint Bernard, so either J.M. Barrie and the Walt Disney team hadn't heard of the nanny characteristics of the pit bull, or, more likely, these characteristics were unknown to everyone. There is no record of the phrase nanny dog in any 19th century publications, and the 20th century is similarly devoid of such references until 1971. In that year, the magazine editor of the Staffordshire Bull Terrier Club of America described the dog as, quote, "a nursemaid dog." The first recorded use of the phrase nanny dog was in 1987 in a Toronto Star article entitled "Move to Outlaw Pit Bulls Under Study in Several Cities." Just as the Southern gentleman myth diverted attention away from the slavery roots of the tobacco industry, the nanny dog myth diverted attention away from the origins of the pit bull breed. The title of the Toronto Star article provides a clue to another benefit of the nanny dog myth, and that is as a defense against breed-specific legislation. The phrase breed-specific legislation, often shortened to BSL, is a real trigger for pit bull supporters. It enrages them. Because they cannot defend the indefensible, they use alternative strategies. They tell lies. They argue from the specific to the general. For example, my pit bull has never bitten anyone, so no pit bull has ever bitten anyone unless provoked. They use slogans such as "blame the owner, not the dog," or "it's the deed, not the breed." They use the media in a variety of ways, from the use of memes of pit bulls wearing tutus to the insertion of pro-pit bull stories in newspapers and TV. Pit bulls are presented in a positive light in feature films, for example in the John Wick series. Social media is awash with pro-pit bull messages. They use political lobbying and political influence. Because they are well-funded, they will employ PR companies, pressure groups, and animal charities to forcefully sell their message. The one thing they will not use is science. They may try to pervert science by funding small-scale, non-peer-reviewed studies slanted to give the results they want. They may manipulate or creatively interpret statistics, but they always avoid the scientific method. Truth is to be avoided at all costs. In the world of the pit bull lover, truth becomes lies and lies becomes truth. Rather than appeal to your intellect, their goal is to appeal to your emotions. If they don't like the message, they shoot the messenger. I spoke about this in my video entitled Vegan Gains Thinks Pitbull Bans Are Stupid, Watch Me Destroy His Arguments. I have covered the pitbull lobby and their arguments in a number of my videos. George Orwell, in his book 1984, wrote, "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past." The Nanny Dog myth is an important and powerful way of controlling the past. Said often enough, it becomes accepted as a new reality. It becomes what Norman Mailer called a factoid. By that he meant an invented fact believed to be true because it appears in print. This fictionalized past influences legislators and the general public when making decisions about dangerous dogs. It influences day-to-day decisions by parents regarding the safety of their children. BSL has become a significant challenge to the pro-pit lobby, and they have faced up to that challenge with denial and dishonesty. The BSL debate is where science and faith collide. Science provides the statistics about deaths, disfigurements, and hospital admissions attached to one breed of dog. Faith denies the knowledge that science provides, even to the extent of claiming that there is no such breed as the pit bull. Science collided with the tobacco industry when science provided evidence of the physical harm that tobacco does to smokers. By the 1950s, the tobacco industry had to face a major collision with science of cataclysmic proportions. Studies had appeared in reputable peer-reviewed publications about the link between tobacco smoking and cancer. Concerns about tobacco and health had been expressed for a long time, but this was something new. This was scientific proof. The following was written in 1604. "A custom loathsome to the eye, hateful to the nose, harmful to the brain, dangerous to the lungs, and in the black stinking fume thereof, nearest resembling the horrible Stygian smoke of the pit that is bottomless." This is a quote from a publication called A Counterblast to Tobacco, written by King James VI of Scotland, who is also King James I of England. Prior to the 1950s, any links between tobacco smoking and health could be dismissed as anecdotal or attributed to other causes. When statistical and other scientific evidence started to mount up about the harmful effects of smoking, the industry had difficult decisions to make. They could admit to the problem and try to provide acceptable solutions, or they could deny it all. The solution was to create doubt, confusion, and controversy about the risks. Other responses to growing public concern included the introduction of filter tips and mentholated cigarettes, as well as funding their own research into the subject and using public relation companies to mitigate the damage. At this time, the industry moved aggressively into a new domain, the production of scientific knowledge, not for purposes of research and development, but rather to undo what was now known, that cigarette smoking caused lethal disease. If science had historically been dedicated to the making of new facts, the industry campaign now sought to develop specific strategies to unmake a scientific fact. They lulled the smoking public into a false sense of security or complacency. Those of you who have watched my videos about pit bulls or who have done any independent study on the subject will be familiar with these same types of responses by the pit bull lobby. Just as the tobacco industry moved to unmake scientific facts, so too did the pit bull industry. They pushed to deny, distort, and manipulate facts. The tobacco industry produced the filter tip and the mentholated cigarette. The pit bull lobby produced the American Pit Bull Terrier temperament test. This is what the website dogtime.com has to say about the test. Quote, people seem to make up their minds and refuse to look at the real evidence. News stations love to pump up stories every time a pit bull is involved in a violent encounter, and a lot of mixed breeds are called pit bulls to create drama. It's so sad that people feel they must create this illusion. That simply is not true. Pit bulls were less likely to show aggression than beagles, bulldogs, basset hounds, Bichon Frise, corgis, chihuahuas, German shepherds, poodles, Yorkshire terriers, and so many more breeds that it would be impossible for me to list them all right here. Don't take my word for it, you can see for yourself. End quote. They conclude with the offer for you to check it out for yourself at the American Testing Society website. I will include the link so that you can check it for yourself. Just as the tobacco industry lulled the smoking public into a false sense of security, the pit bull lobby is trying to lull the general public into a state of complacency about the danger of pit bulls. The temperament test is presented and written about as if it is a precise scientific measure. It is not. Read about it yourself to gain an impression of how rudimentary, judgment-based, and non-scientific it is. From my perspective, these tables show that no dogs are to be trusted, rather than their conclusion that pit bulls are to be seen as more trustworthy than other breeds. In this concluding section of my video, I want to take a trip into the self-indulgent area of wish fulfillment, and I'll use the tobacco industry to get me there. By the 1960s, countries across the world were starting to formulate strategies to deal with the scientific knowledge about tobacco smoking. In the USA, the first Surgeon General's report on the adverse effects of smoking appeared in 1964. 1 year later, the Cigarette Labeling and Advertising Act was passed. Bans on cigarette advertising on TV and radio followed 4 years later. By the end of the 70s, there were limitations and bans on smoking in public places because of concern about passive smoking, particularly on children. Other countries had similar trajectories, with regulations about health warnings, advertising, branding, and public smoking. When you see old TV programs or old movies, you can see that smoking was everywhere. Politicians would be interviewed on TV, and both the interviewer and the interviewed would be smoking throughout. Smoking would indicate romance, toughness, and independence in popular movies, always positive attributes. Smoking styles and smoking equipment could indicate status and social position, for example, the use of pipes and cigarette holders. Every town would have a tobacconist who sold a diverse range of tobaccos, such as cigarettes, cigars, snuff, chewing tobacco, and pipe tobacco. They would also sell a range of value-added products, such as smokers' knives, lighters, pipe stands, and cigar cases. Smoking was an important part of economic life. All of that has gone. Casual smoking has disappeared from our daily lives, our places of entertainment, and our homes. Products to help you quit smoking are big business now. I find all of this encouraging. An industry that was once central to our lives and its products seen as indispensable is now held in low esteem. If it can happen with tobacco, it can happen with dogs. People such as tobacconists, who relied on tobacco for their business, had to diversify and change what they sold. Dog groomers, treat manufacturers, leash manufacturers, and all of the other supporting trades can easily find different ways of making money. There are a number of trades that have disappeared because of progress. You only have to consider the importance of the horse to economics in the 19th century to know that things change. It's time for a change. It's time to move on from the stifling and pointless tyranny of the dog worship lobby and their dangerous anti-scientific thinking. It's time to echo the history of our concerns about smoking and act on science by enabling stringently policed legislation aimed at protecting us from dogs and their enablers. As we have seen from the past of tobacco, the future can change. The future can be dog-free.